The Knicks just won a crazy one. 130 points on 95 shot attempts? That's ridiculous efficiency. And it didn't happen by accident. Jalen Brunson led the way with 28 points and 10 assists on 10 for 23 shooting and 5 made threes. But he wasn't the only one facilitating. Bridges chipped in 10 assists of his own while shooting a clean 3 for 5. That's 20 assists just between those two. And it didn't stop there. Karl Anthony Towns added 4 more from the front court and didn't turn the ball over once. Miles McBride came off the bench with 14 points on 50% shooting, and Tyler Kolek added 7 more with 5 assists in just 12 minutes. That means even the second unit was getting others involved, not just chucking shots. And speaking of chucking, Diawara hit all 4 of his threes and went 7 for 9 from the floor in just 18 minutes, ending with 18 points. That's pure impact with 0 waste. Jordan Clarkson came in with 9 points and a +9 while only playing 13 minutes. That's contribution without hijacking possessions. The Knicks hit 23s total, and they did it on 44 attempts. That's 45% from deep, and everyone was part of it. OG took 8 threes, only made 1, but still dropped 23 points with 11 boards, 3 steals, and a block. The volume spacing he provided made room for others to operate. On the flip side, Gershon Yabusele hit 3 of 4 from deep and finished with 9 points in 16 minutes. No drop-off, no wasted shots, just efficient minutes all around. Defensively, they forced 8 steals and had 4 blocks. OG led the disruption with 3 steals and 1 block, but Bridges and McBride each added 1 more steal too. And again, they did all this while only committing 19 total fouls. No reckless hacking, just sound, aggressive defense. Towns grabbed 12 boards with his 12 points, and he also had 2 blocks, locking down the paint while staying mistake-free. Bench players kept things clean too. McCullough hit 1 of 2 shots for 2 points. And while Ariel Hukporti didn't record any stats, his minutes still didn't lead to any collapse in the rotation. Trey Jemison only played 4 minutes, but knocked down his only shot, while the rest of the bench kept the floor spaced and the offense moving. There wasn't a single stretch where things fell apart. The Knicks ended with 35 assists on 46 made shots. That's a 76% assist rate, which means most of their scoring came from movement and passing, not random isolation. And the crazy part, they only turned the ball over 8 times. That's a 4.5 to 1 assist to turnover ratio in a game where they scored 130. The offense didn't just flow, it was mechanical. No wasted possessions, no panic passes, no stuck possessions late in the shot clock. And don't forget the rebounding. Towns and OG combined for 23 boards, and the team pulled down 32 on the defensive glass. That kept the Pelicans from getting second chances. 10 offensive rebounds for the Knicks turned into real points too, not just wasted tips. They extended possessions, cashed in, and went right back to defending. Clarkson had 1 assist, 2 boards, and no turnover. Kolek had 2 rebounds and 5 assists in 12 minutes. These guys weren't just playing spot minutes, they were part of the system. Yabusele, McBride, and Kolek combined for 7 made threes off the bench. Even with all the mixing and staggering, there was no let up. Every lineup worked, plus minus. Stats told the same story. OG was a +16, Clarkson +9, McBride +8, Towns +6. No one dragged the team down. Even the deep bench stayed in the positive or neutral. That's what system-level consistency looks like. Not 1 or 2 guys dragging the team. Everyone showing up in the numbers. And don't skip past the shot selection. 44 threes, 51 twos. That's as close to balance as it gets. No leaning on one type of shot. And they still managed to hit 95% of their free throws. They weren't even leaving points at the line. They took what the Pelicans gave them and didn't fumble a single opportunity. There were no garbage time stat pads. The scoring was steady throughout. The Knicks didn't just explode in a quarter. They controlled every segment. Brunson and Bridges combined for 20 assists. Towns and OG brought in 23 rebounds. Diawara, Yabusele, and McBride hit a combined 9 threes. The team functioned like a machine. No squeaky parts, no loose gears. And yeah, this is what 23-9 looks like. 1 game out of first in the East. That's not noise. That's not luck. That's what it looks like when the whole box score lines up and everyone plays their role. No slumps, no collapses, no drama. Just numbers that do all the talking. But when watching this game, I want to talk about OG. OG has been excellent this year, and the numbers back it up cleanly without needing any extra framing. He's scoring 15.7 points per game, which already places him ahead of more than 82% of the league. That level of scoring matters because it comes without heavy volume or forced attempts. His efficiency is doing the real work. An effective field goal rate of 56.7% puts him ahead of more than 65% of players, which means his shot selection and conversion are consistently strong across both 2-point and 3-point attempts. The breakdown of his shot profile reinforces that. He's making 3.2 2-point field goals per game and 2.4 3-point field goals per game on 11.9 total field goal attempts. That balance matters. It shows he's not locked into one scoring lane. The points per field goal number sits at 1.1, which again ranks him ahead of more than 65% of the league. That tells you each shot carries value. Nothing about his scoring profile suggests wasted possessions. True shooting pushes that point even further. A true shooting percentage of 60.1% places him comfortably above league average and ahead of more than 65% of players. When you factor in his free throw attempts at 2.9 per game, the efficiency holds. He's producing 1.2 points per scoring attempt, which puts him ahead of more than 99% of the league. That number jumps off the page. Almost every scoring action he finishes turns into positive value. The mixed teamwork data paints an even clearer picture of impact. He ranks ahead of 99% of players in mixed teamwork, which directly ties his presence to positive margins on the scoreboard. An offensive rating of 124.4 paired with a defensive rating of 112.2 creates a net rating of plus 12.2. That is elite. Those numbers show that lineups perform significantly better on both ends when he's on the floor. It is not just scoring, it is influence. That influence shows up in plus-minus trends. 81.8% of his games finish with a positive plus-minus. That kind of consistency across game samples is rare. It tells you his impact does not fluctuate wildly based on matchup or usage. The on-off differential strengthens that case even more. When he's on the floor, the team scores 9 more points per 100 possessions than when he's off. That puts him ahead of more than 54% of the league. Ball handling sits in a functional but controlled range. His ball handling metric ranks ahead of 54% of players. That fits his role perfect. He's not overextending or trying to create beyond his strengths. Assist numbers reflect that balance. He's averaging 2.1 assists per game while committing 1.9 turnovers. His assist percentage is 8.74%, which places him ahead of more than 31% of players. That is not elite creation, but it is not empty either. It shows he can move the ball without overhandling. Turnover control deserves attention. His turnover percentage sits at 12.73%. That means only a small portion of his offensive actions end in mistakes. With 13.1 scoring attempts per game, he keeps errors limited relative to usage. That restraint matters because it preserves efficiency. Usage rate ties everything together. A usage rate of 19.3% places him firmly in a secondary offensive role. That matters because his efficiency does not come from being hidden. He's involved in possessions. His actions include 11.9 field goal attempts, 2.9 free throw attempts, 2.1 assists, and 1.9 turnover across 67.3 possessions played per game. His influence remains steady. He's active without hijacking flow. Defense is where his value stretches even further. Mixed team defense ranks him ahead of 92% of players. That number reflects both individual stops and team-level suppression. His defensive rating of 112.2 aligns with that ranking. The counting stats support it. He's averaging 1.7 steals and 0.8 blocks per game. Those are disruptive numbers for a wing. Add 3.9 defensive rebounds per game, and the defensive profile fills out fully. Rebounding consistency adds another layer. He's averaging 5.4 rebounds per game, which places him ahead of more than 58% of players. The split matters. 1.5 offensive rebounds per game and 3.9 defensive rebounds per game show activity on both ends. His offensive rebound percentage sits at 4.37%, ranking him ahead of more than 57% of the league. That means he's creating extra possessions without sacrificing floor balance. Defensive rebounding holds firm as well. A defensive rebound percentage of 11.42% places him ahead of more than 49% of players. That shows reliability rather than dominance. He's finishing possessions consistently. Nothing about his rebounding profile feels inflated or accidental. What stands out most to me is how all these numbers connect. Scoring, efficiency, aligns with usage. Usage aligns with turnover control. Turnover control aligns with net rating. Net rating aligns with plus-minus consistency. Defensive metrics align with team efficiency. Everything reinforces everything else. There is no outlier carrying the profile. It is balanced impact. His scoring does not come at the cost of team rhythm. 15.7 points per game fits smoothly into the offense. The effective field goal and true shooting numbers confirm that he's converting within structure. Points per scoring attempt being above 99% of the league tells you he's among the most efficient finishers relative to opportunity. Combination of steals, blocks, and rebounding shows versatility. 1.7 steals per game reflect anticipation. 0.8 blocks per game reflect timing. Rebounding shows effort. Mixed team defense, ranking ahead of 92% of players, shows those actions translate to results. The on-off numbers give context to everything else. A plus 9.0 differential when he's on the floor tells you lineups function better with him present. That is not theoretical. That is measurable. Coupled with over 81% of games finishing with positive plus-minus, it shows reliability night after night. Usage rate being under 20% keeps his efficiency repeatable. He's not stretched beyond his role. That makes his true shooting and effective field goal numbers sustainable. His possession involvement of 67.3 per game reflects trust. He's part of the action. He's not parked in the corner or hidden. Yet mistakes remain low. A turnover rate under 13% confirms that. What really separates his season is the absence of weak spots. There is no category dragging the profile down. Ball handling sits above average. Passing sits functional. Scoring efficiency sits strong. Defense sits elite. Rebounding sits solid. Impact metrics sit near the top of the league. That is the summary stat. When he's on the floor, the team gains ground. Offensive rating rises. Defensive rating drops. Net rating explodes. Those effects do not depend on matchup or pace. They are persistent. This season shows a player who understands his value. He scores efficiently without volume chasing. He defends aggressively without fouling. He rebounds without abandoning assignments. He handles the ball without turning it over excessively. Everything is controlled. The numbers show a complete wing profile built on efficiency and impact rather than highlights. 15.7 points per game matter more when paired with 60.1% true shooting. Defensive metrics matter more when paired with positive plus-minus in over 80% of games. With a 19.3% usage rate, he fits alongside any lineup construction. His on-off differential proves that flexibility. Lineups get better when he's present, regardless of who else shares the floor. This season, OG's value is not loud, but it is undeniable. The stats form a clean chain of cause and effect. Efficient scoring leads to strong offensive ratings. Disciplined defense leads to strong defensive rating. Both lead to elite net ratings. Elite net ratings lead to wins. Every metric provided supports the same conclusion. His impact lives in efficiency, stability, and two-way execution. There are no wasted possessions. There are no defensive gaps. There are no usage distortions. Just consistent value across 67.3 possessions per game. Strip away context. Look only at the numbers. They still tell the same story. OG has been one of the most effective two-way contributors in the league this year, and the data leaves very little room to argue otherwise. But then we can do the same thing for Brunson. Brunson's season stands out immediately. When looking at raw scoring volume combined with league-wide context, he's averaging 29.3 points per game, a figure that places him ahead of more than 98% of all players. That level of production signals true offensive centerpiece status. Very few players in the league carry that kind of scoring responsibility on a nightly basis, and even fewer sustain it over an extended sample. This is not situational scoring or matchup-driven output. This is consistent, high-volume offense that anchors possessions. Efficiency beneath that scoring load reinforces its legitimacy. An effective field goal percentage of 54.4% ranks him ahead of more than 55% of players. For someone taking 21.9 shots per game, that efficiency matters far more than it would for a low-volume finisher. Points per field goal sit at 1.1, which confirms that his makes are translating cleanly into scoring value. There is no evidence of wasted attempts or empty shooting. Stretches inflating volume without payoff. Shot distribution explains why efficiency remains stable. 7.5 made 2-point field goals per game show reliable interior scoring and mid-range conversion. 2.9 made 3-point field goals per game add perimeter pressure and spacing value. Those makes come on a balanced attempt profile rather than skewed shot selection. Defenses are forced to respect multiple scoring zones simultaneously, which sustains efficiency even as defensive attention increases. True shooting percentage adds another layer of confirmation. A true shooting mark of 59.4% places him ahead of more than 63% of players. That metric incorporates field goals, three-point shooting, and free throws, giving a full picture of scoring efficiency. Free throw volume plays a major role here. 6.6 free throw attempts per game raise the floor of his efficiency and punish defensive pressure. Points per scoring attempt land at 1.2, which ranks him ahead of more than 97% of the league. That number indicates that nearly every completed offensive action produces positive value. The scale of his workload makes those efficiency numbers even more striking. He is finishing 24.7 scoring attempts per game. That includes shots and trips to the free throw line. High attempt volume typically drags efficiency downward as defensive difficulty increases. In this case, efficiency remains intact. That combination is extremely rare across the league. Mixed teamwork metrics capture how that production translates to team outcomes. Brunson ranks ahead of 97% of players in mixed teamwork, which measures how his presence affects point differential relative to the rest of the league. His offensive rating sits at 126.4. That figure reflects elite scoring environments when he is on the floor. His defensive rating sits at 118.3. When combined, those numbers produce a net rating of plus 8.1. That net rating indicates strong positive margins during his minutes. Plus, minus trends reinforce that impact. 72.4% of his games finish with a positive plus minus. That consistency matters given the role he plays. Primary offensive engines often experience higher volatility because they absorb the most difficult possession. Despite that, positive outcomes dominate his game log. On-off data strengthens the case further. When he is on the floor, the team scores 5.1 more points per 100 possessions than when he is off. That places him ahead of more than 96% of players. That number isolates impact without relying on narrative or situational context. Ball handling metrics highlight another core strength. Brunson ranks ahead of 96% of players in ball handling ability. That aligns with his role as the primary organizer of the offense. He controls tempo, initiates actions, and navigates pressure without losing possession integrity. That control shows up clearly in his assist number. He averages 6.5 assists per game, placing him ahead of more than 91% of players. Assist rate adds important context. An assist percentage of 28.79% means that nearly 1/3 of teammate field goals are assisted by him while he is on the floor. That is a hallmark of a primary creator. Points assisted per game sit at 16.4, which adds significantly to his direct scoring output. When combining points scored and points assisted, his total offensive contribution surpasses 45 points per game. Turnover control balances that playmaking load. He averages 2.3 turnovers per game. Given his usage and ball dominance, that figure is remarkably low. And turnover percentage sits at 8.44%, meaning fewer than 9% of his offensive actions end in turnovers. That level of efficiency under pressure separates high-level creators from volume-driven scorers. It shows discipline, decision-making, and control. Usage rate contextualizes everything. Brunson's usage sits at 31.6%, placing him among the league leaders. Nearly 1/3 of offensive possessions end with his action. Those actions include 21.9 field goal attempts, 6.6 free throw attempts, 6.5 assists, and 2.3 turnovers per game. Across 72.7 possessions played per game, he is deeply embedded in nearly every offensive sequence. Despite that workload, efficiency remains stable. Effective field goal percentage stays solid. True shooting remains strong. Turnover rate stays low. Assist rate stays high. Typically, one of those areas suffers as usage climbs. In this case, they coexist. That balance is the defining feature of his season. Defensive metrics are more modest, but they do not erase his overall value. Mixed team defense ranks him ahead of 31% of players. His defensive rating of 118.3 reflects team context as much as individual contribution. Counting stats show limited defensive events. 0.8 steals per game, 0.1 blocks per game, 2.7 defensive rebounds per game. Those numbers indicate average defensive involvement rather than liability. Importantly, they do not overwhelm the offensive gains he creates. Net rating confirms that conclusion. Plus 8.1 indicates that the team still wins minutes decisively with him on the floor. On-off differential confirms that the overall equation remains positive. Defensive limitations do not negate offensive dominance. Scoring volume, paired with playmaking, further elevates his impact. 29.3 points per game, combined with 6.5 assists, reflect dual responsibility. He is both finishing possessions and creating advantages for teammates. Assist percentage confirms that flow. Nearly 29% of teammate field goals come directly from his passes while he plays. Efficiency metrics validate the sustainability of that output. 1.2 points per scoring attempt at this volume is elite. Offensive rating over 126 reinforces that those possessions are converting at an exceptional rate. Turnover percentage under 9% ensures that efficiency does not leak away through mistakes. Ball handling strength underpins all of it. Ranking ahead of 96% of players in ball handling explains how he manages pressure without collapsing efficiency. Possessions stay organized. Timing stays controlled. Decisions arrive early rather than late. Usage above 31% reflects trust rather than desperation. The offense is designed to run through him because the outcomes justify it. His scoring distribution supports that trust. Interior makes, perimeter makes, and free throws all contribute without skewing shot selection. Defenses must respect every option. Assist volume keeps teammates involved and prevents stagnation. 6.5 assists per game and 16.4 points assisted per game ensure that offense remains dynamic rather than predictable. That balance helps sustain efficiency over long stretches. Turnover control remains one of the most important indicators. 2.3 turnovers per game across such heavy usage is elite. Turnover percentage confirms it. That restraint preserves scoring margins and keeps offensive rating elevated. On-off differential of plus 5.1 places him among the very top of the league in impact. That number alone signals elite value. When paired with positive plus-minus in over 72% of games, consistency becomes undeniable. The possession count of 72.7 per game highlights the workload. Maintaining efficiency across that many possessions requires conditioning, decision-making, and skill. His numbers indicate success on all three fronts. What separates this season statistically is the lack of compromise. High usage does not destroy efficiency. High assist responsibility does not inflate turnovers. High scoring volume does not erase playmaking. Each metric supports the others. Scoring nearly 30 points per game while maintaining above average effective field goal percentage and strong true shooting places him in rare company. Adding elite assist rate and turnover control elevates the profile even further. Offensive rating captures the full effect. 126.4 reflects elite scoring environments during his minutes. Defensive rating does not cancel it out. Net rating remains strongly positive. Outcomes tilt in the right direction. Plus-minus consistency reflects that reliability. Even in difficult games, his presence still tends to produce positive results. That stability is critical for a primary engine. Ball handling dominance shows up in every category. Assist rate, turnover rate, usage, and offensive rating all trace back to control. Possessions do not unravel. Pressure does not overwhelm execution. Usage rate confirms offensive centrality. Nearly 1/3 of plays end with his action, and the efficiency of those actions validates the design. Trust flows from results. Scoring distribution prevents defensive predictability. Interior scoring, perimeter shooting, and free throws all remain active. Defenses cannot eliminate one option without opening another. Assist creation ensures teammates remain productive. That balance keeps overall offensive efficiency high and prevents stagnation. Points assisted add significant value beyond personal scoring. Turnover restraint keeps margins intact. Low turnover percentage protects efficiency and amplifies scoring impact. On-off impact confirms that all of these factors translate directly to winning minutes. Plus 5.1 per 100 possessions is elite. That is impact measured cleanly. This season's statistical profile reflects a player operating as one of the league's most effective offensive engines. Scoring, efficiency, playmaking, ball handling, and impact metrics align without contradiction. There is no reliance on outlier shooting nights. Percentages are stable. Volume is consistent. Impact metrics remain strong across games. That stability signals sustainability. Nearly every metric points in the same direction. High volume scoring, strong efficiency, elite playmaking, minimal mistakes, positive impact. all delivered across more than 70 possessions per game. Brunson's season, measured strictly through the numbers, represents elite offensive value delivered with control and consistency. The data forms a complete picture of a primary creator producing at the highest level without sacrificing efficiency or team outcomes. Overall, though, the Knicks just won a crazy one, and the way it happened matters far more than the final margin. This game wasn't about random scoring bursts or hot stretches that disappear the next night. It was about control. From the opening possessions through the closing minutes, everything stayed connected. The offense never looked rushed, the ball never stuck, and the pace stayed intentional. That kind of performance doesn't happen by accident. It comes from structure, trust, and players understanding exactly where value comes from on every trip down the floor. What stood out immediately was how efficiently everything flowed without leaning on shortcuts. The scoring output came naturally through movement, spacing, and quick decisions. Shots didn't feel forced. There was no stretch where the offense stalled and needed bailout attempts. Every possession felt like it had a purpose. When shots went up, they came from advantages that were already created, not from desperation late in the clock. That's how efficiency becomes repeatable instead of fragile. Ball security played a massive role in keeping that rhythm intact. The Knicks didn't just avoid mistakes, they eliminated chaos. Possessions ended with shots, passes, or finishes, not giveaways. That allowed momentum to build instead of constantly resetting. When a team protects the ball at that level, it forces the opponent to defend full possessions over and over again. Fatigue builds. Rotations get slower. Gaps appear. The scoreboard reflects it. Even if it doesn't feel loud in the moment, the passing was just as important as the scoring itself. Baskets came through connection, not isolation. The ball found the open player quickly, and it kept moving until the best option appeared. That kind of assist distribution tells you everyone was involved. Creation didn't live in one place. Responsibility shifted naturally from one player to the next, which made defensive focus almost impossible to lock onto. When multiple players can make the right read, the offense becomes unpredictable without becoming sloppy. Shot balance reinforced that idea. The Knicks didn't live in one area of the floor. Inside touches mattered. Outside spacing mattered. Nothing felt overused. Defenders couldn't sit on one action or overplay one spot because the next possession might attack from somewhere else. That balance is what keeps shooting efficiency stable across a full game rather than swinging wildly from quarter to quarter. The bench minutes told the same story. Too often, efficiency drops when rotations change. That didn't happen here. The same principles stayed intact. Spacing didn't collapse, passing didn't slow down, decision-making didn't dip. The continuity matters because it turns a good night into a complete one. Leads don't just survive, they grow because the standard never changes. Rebounding quietly supported everything else. Extra possessions came without disorder. Defensive boards ended plays cleanly. Nothing felt frantic. Possession control stayed consistent, and that allowed the Knicks to dictate tempo instead of reacting to it. When rebounds are secured without fouling or scrambling, the entire game feels calmer, even as the score climbs. On the other end, the defense created value through disruption, not recklessness. Possessions ended early, without sending the opponent to the line. Hands were active, timing was sharp. Help arrived when it needed to, and disappeared when it didn't. That balance between pressure and discipline is hard to maintain, but it showed up clearly throughout the night. Stops came without gifting free points, which preserved every advantage built on offense. Lineup, impact, never wavered. No group stepped on the floor and immediately lost control of the game. Even when shots didn't fall for brief stretches, the underlying structure held. That's how plus-minus trends stay positive without relying on shooting luck. Value came from spacing, positioning, and awareness, not just makes. Minutes were handled smartly. No one was stretched beyond their role. The floor always had enough handling, enough shooting, and enough size to stay functional. That balance prevented fatigue from showing up late and kept execution sharp through the final possessions. Games like this often slip when rotations tighten or roles blur. That never happened here. The flow of the game reinforced all of it. There weren't wild swings driven by emotion or randomness. Production stayed steady. Possession after possession looked similar in quality. That's what sustainable offense looks like. It doesn't spike, it stacks. In the bigger picture, this win fits into a growing pattern. Performances built on control tend to travel. They hold up against different opponents and different game scripts. When wins come this way, they matter more than the ones built on noise. What makes this night stand out is how clean the numbers look when everything is taken together. Scoring, passing, rebounding, and D-th fence all point in the same direction. Nothing contradicts anything else. That alignment is rare, and it's usually the sign of a team operating exactly how it wants to. And within that structure, OG's season continues to shine without needing spotlight moments. His value lives in efficiency and impact rather than volume chasing. He fits perfectly into games like this because he doesn't disrupt flow, he enhances it. His scoring arrives within rhythm. His defensive presence shows up without fouling. His rebounding closes possession. Everything he does supports the system instead of bending it. That consistency is why lineups perform better when he's on the floor. He doesn't need the ball to matter, and he doesn't waste it when he gets it. His impact shows up in margins, not moments. Over the course of a season, that reliability adds up fast. When efficiency, restraint, and defensive awareness combine in one player, it stabilizes everything around him. Teammates benefit, rotations simplify. The game slows down in the best way possible. This game reflected that same identity at a team level. Nothing felt forced. Nothing felt accidental. Every advantage was earned and then protected. The Knicks didn't just win. They controlled the night from start to finish. And the way they did it is the kind that carries forward. If you guys enjoyed this, I'll be posting every day. I genuinely appreciate if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching.